Our story begins in a chaotic scene, with a horde of demons attacking and people running for their lives. Amidst the panic, a woman carrying her son was almost grabbed by a demon. Just in time, a man appeared, cutting off the demon's hand. The woman and child were stunned. The man, visibly upset, declared that none of these annoying demons would survive. "This is Haben, the master swordsman." He ordered his comrades to prepare. Noting that this could be the Demon King's final attack, Haben ordered the Archmage to handle the air attack, while he and Lepania handled the ground troops. Both the Archmage and Lepania agreed. The King of Power, Galtus, exclaimed that he would handle them all. While a soldier announced his plan to infiltrate the demon castle and negotiate for their surrender, Haben then turns to the head of security, emphasizing his reliance on him to support the heroes secretly. Our protagonist, the Imperial Security Chief, understands his duty to protect the Imperial Castle. As the team takes their positions, he prepares to provide crucial support from behind, ensuring the heroes' safety and success in this critical battle. She operates as an unsung hero behind the scenes, ensuring the success of the protagonist without seeking recognition. When Haben expresses concern, she reassures him, eliciting a smile from the seasoned swordsman, which is returned with a smile. As the Haben advanced to the battlefield, she summoned the Imperial Security Chief, suggesting they share a drink after the chaos subsided. The demons attacked them, but Lepania quickly dispatched them with her sword, her movements precise and swift. Galtus joined the fray, his fiery fists wreaking havoc among the demon hordes. His powerful strikes sent the demons flying into the air, paving the way for their victory. The Grand Sorceress, casting spells with mastery, dispersed the remaining demons with a flick of her wrist. Meanwhile, Haben faced the towering demons, his eyes blazing with determination. With a ferocious display of strength, he slashed through swaths of enemies with each swing of his sword. As a flying demon swooped in from behind, causing panic among the knights, he calmly reassured his team and took action. Drawing his sword, he unleashed one devastating slash, cleaving through the aerial threat with precision and skill, ensuring the safety of his comrades. The knights marveled at his prowess, unable to believe that he was repelling demons with only basic techniques like imperial swordsmanship. Unperturbed by their astonishment, he urged them to remain vigilant. Suddenly, a warning shout pierced through the air, drawing his attention to the demon that came hurtling towards him at an alarming speed. Meanwhile, inside the Demon King's castle, the evil ruler taunted the warrior, declaring his impending death and destiny. Speaking to the humans, the Demon King sarcastically acknowledged their victory and urged them to revel in their hard-won peace. With a swift movement, the warrior raised his sword and severed the Demon King's head from his body, ending the tyranny. Back in their city, joyous cheers erupted among the citizens as they celebrated the Demon King's death and the restoration of peace. In the midst of the revelry, Haben noticed the absence of the chief of security. Lepania speculated that the security chief might still be alive, perhaps engrossed in sword practice elsewhere. As the euphoria of victory enveloped them, Haben could not shake the feeling of unease, sensing that their battle was far from over. Despite the temporary calm, he remained vigilant, for he knew that peace was a fragile gift that had to be guarded closely. Observing the heroes from afar, the security chief reflected on their bravery and the admiration they earned from people all over the world. Although he considered himself neither a hero nor a swordsman, he found solace in his very important role. Amidst the snow-capped mountain peaks, he held his sword, reminiscing about his love for the sword even though he had no natural talent in the art. Throughout his life, he had swung a sword. From his academy days with the Haben to his service in the Imperial Guard, the sword had been his constant companion. Suddenly, a cough racked his body, and he spat blood, feeling the weight of age weighing heavily on him. Laughing wryly, he reflected on the fleeting nature of youth, lamenting his inability to heal as quickly as before. However, in the midst of his laughter, a profound realization dawned: the time was drawing near. Yearning to be counted among the heroes, immune to the ravages of time, he sadly acknowledged his mortality. Clutching his sword tightly, he prepared to perform his final act. Exerting all his strength, he unleashed a wave of energy, transcending the limitations of age and weakness. At that moment, he ascended to the pinnacle of swordsmanship, embodying the essence of a true swordsman. Shocked by this revelation, he stood in awe of his newfound power, a testament to the indomitable spirit that remained within him, even as his body succumbed to the passage of time. With a mixture of disbelief and amusement, he chuckled at the irony of becoming a swordsman in his old age, a feat he had never imagined before. However, as he removed his sword, a sense of resignation came over him. What was the significance of the sword now, as an old man nearing the end of his journey? However, he found solace in the thought that his life was not without merit. Closing his eyes, he reflected on the rarity of his accomplishment, to rise to the rank of swordsman before leaving the mortal realm. However, when he opened his eyes, he found himself in unfamiliar surroundings, lying on a bed. Confusion clouded his mind as he tried to make sense of his existence. Is this the afterlife? Glancing at his reflection in a nearby mirror, he was struck by the sight of his own face, which raised many questions regarding his identity and location. Stepping out into the corridor, she traversed the hallways of the castle, her mind racing with uncertainty. Had he been reincarnated into the body of a child? Observing a young woman practicing swordplay, he paused for a moment, mesmerized by her skill and determination. As he pondered the woman's identity, a realization dawned. She was in the castle of the Alec region, where she had spent the last years of her service. With intriguing curiosity, he wondered whose body he now occupied, while pondering the mystery of his unexpected journey. As he observed the flowing and meandering movements of the young woman's sword technique, a sense of recognition arose within him. Could that be the legendary hero's sword technique, he thought. Although complicated, the technique seemed to come naturally to him, showing a considerable degree of talent. The red misty woman looked at her and didn't seem to recognize her. Is she the daughter of the Lord? He didn't remember seeing a child like her in his previous life. He remembered about that sword technique. It was a sword technique that made her move like a snake. Wasn't it the hero sword technique created by that person? The technique looked difficult, and he looked quite talented. Surprised at suddenly realizing him, she called him Asher, making him wonder if that was indeed his name. She asked why he was even standing there when the others were already practicing. Inquiring about the technique he used, she speculated that it was probably Ravinia's sword technique, impressed by his proficiency that showed years of dedicated practice. Despite her skill, he noticed slight flaws in her execution, and her sword movements were still a little unstable, suggesting adjustments to her grip and tempo. Before he could continue, a practice sword thrown at him interrupted their interaction. Faced with her stern reprimand, he backed away, realizing his mistake. Apologizing profusely, he acknowledged her authority as his employer, not his sister, as he had previously thought. With a trembling voice, he obeyed her order to address her as Lady Rika, acknowledging her position in the castle hierarchy. Deciding to ignore her previous missteps, Lady Rika questioned whether he might be lacking rest, noticing his unusual demeanor. Intrigued by his unexpected knowledge of the hero's sword techniques, she probed further, inquiring about his familiarity with the legendary blade. With a subtle warning, she reminded him of the consequences of incompetence. Feeling the weight of her predicament, she broke out in a sweat, realizing the gravity of her situation, chastising himself for trying to instruct the castle lady. She reluctantly approached the practice dummy, recognizing the inevitability of participation. Reflecting on his past role as head of imperial security, he realized the persistence of his tendency to guide and correct. As he gripped the sword, a familiar sensation coursed through him, reminding him of his past prowess. Taking up the position of an imperial sword technique, he surprised and impressed Lady Reka, who recognized the familiarity of his posture. Out of curiosity, she questioned the origins of his training, noticing his uncharacteristic seriousness. Inwardly, she marveled at the reawakening of his sword sense, a reminder of the life he once lived. Maintaining her silence, she internally chastised Lady Rika's assumption, reminding herself of her decades-long mastery of the blade, even in the final moments of her former life. As she executed the technique, a powerful explosion resounded, pushing Lady Rika backwards with its force. Immersed in the power of her rejuvenated body, she perfectly demonstrated the technique, savoring the sensation of youth flowing through her. With unrivaled agility, she lunged at the training dummy, crushing it with a single blow, leaving Lady Reka dumbfounded and speechless. Realizing the imperial sword technique, she questioned how he used such speed and power with such a seemingly basic technique. Despite her disbelief, she left, calling out his name with a mixture of shock and awe. Reflecting on his impulsive performance, he acknowledges the need for restraint, realizing the potential consequences of his unbridled enthusiasm. Expressing his regret to Lady Rika, he grappled with the realization that his swordsmanship prowess had not diminished with his newfound youth. However, he decided to temper his excitement, recognizing the need for discretion in his interactions with others. Rika's grip tightened around his hand as she expressed her admiration, marveling at his hidden talent and questioning why he had kept it hidden for so long. Her response is a shy silence, her fear amplified by his lingering touch. In a moment of honesty, he admits that he misjudged her, confessing that he had previously considered her lazy and stupid. This revelation aroused curiosity in her, prompting her to contemplate the true nature of Asher's everyday personality. Politely deflecting her praise, he insisted that he had only modest abilities. Rika, however, vehemently denied his humility and insisted that he possessed far greater abilities than he admitted. Before she can respond further, their interaction is suddenly interrupted by Rika's brother, Luke, who enters and interrupts the tender moment. Luke's disparaging remarks pierce the air, scolding Asher for having the audacity to speak so intimately with royalty, and labeling him as insignificant compared to their esteemed lineage. Despite the harsh rebuke, Asher remained calm, silently absorbing the verbal assault while contemplating his position in their world. Asher offered a quick apology to Luke, inwardly recognizing the young lord's shortcomings. Luke, observing Asher's grip on Rika's sword, questioned his intentions to learn the noble sword technique. Although Rika had attempted to intervene, Luke silenced her, seizing this moment to propose a sparring match. With unwavering confidence, he challenged Asher, promising recognition for his skills if he survived for 1 minute. Rika, alarmed, begs her brother to stop, but Luke dismisses her concerns, assuring her of Asher's safety. As Luke prepares to engage, Rika resignedly accepts his assurances, though she harbors doubts about his intentions. Meanwhile, Asher's anxiety surges as he analyzes Luke's flawed attitude, questioning how Rika could relate to such a weak swordsman. Determined to prevent escalation, Asher decided to disarm Luke immediately. Luke lunged forward, prompting Asher to react with calculated precision. In one swift motion, Asher disarmed Luke, sending his weapon crashing to the ground. As victory approached him, Asher grappled with the unexpected complexity of a deliberate defeat. His victory was marred by the sight of blood dripping from a small cut on Luke's face, a reminder of the consequences of their confrontation. As Luke wipes the blood away, his panic mirrors Asher's horror. The realization of his wound sent Luke into a frenzy, unable to comprehend how a common servant could dare to injure a nobleman. Asher, in turn, felt the weight of impending doom upon him, realizing the gravity of his actions. In the halls of the king's palace in the region of Aulak, Luke appealed to the king for justice, demanding severe punishment for Asher's offense. Kneeling and bound before the king and queen, Luke solemnly denounced Asher's actions that defamed the bloodline of a Halbarok noble family. The king turned his attention to Asher, expecting a response. However, Asher remained silent, wrestling with the weight of the accusation. Memories flooded his mind, recalling his days as captain of the guard, a position he held under the previous lord's reign. Realization dawned on him. 40 years had passed since his death. In the solemn silence of the hall, Asher contemplated the passage of time and the irreversible consequences of his actions. His silence spoke volumes, conveying the weight of his past and the uncertainty of his future in the face of impending judgment. Riberok's voice carried a mixture of disappointment and determination as he spoke to Asher, recounting the years they had treated him as their own brother despite his many transgressions. Although this time Asher had crossed the line, the Riberok recognized their lingering affection and chose to commute his sentence. However, the decision was clear. Asher must leave the territory immediately. The queen interrupted, pleading with her husband to reconsider, her maternal instincts overriding Riberok's firm decision. Riberok silenced her, reminding her of his past tolerance of Asher, which was partly due to his influence. This time, however, Riberok's patience has reached its limit. He questioned the value of their continued affection towards a seemingly ungrateful soul who failed to appreciate the privilege of being nurtured in their home. Riberok expressed his gratitude that Asher was evicted in good health, a sentiment that underscored the severity of the situation. Before Riberok's decision could be finalized, an interruption from Rika interrupted the proceedings. She boldly defends Asher, accusing Luke of being the real instigator. Luke's outburst was met with Rika's unwavering assertion that she had hurt herself while trying to hurt Asher. Asher only taught her swordsmanship, a statement that casts doubt on the rightness of their decision. As Reka boldly defended Asher's actions, accusing Luke of lacking swordsmanship, the air was tense. Luke trembled with anger, his pride stung by Reka's words, while Reborok and the Queen listened in amazement. Reborok's question pierced the silence, prompting Reka to emphasize Asher's proficiency in imperial swordsmanship, a fact that she said had motivated her desire to become his mentor. She testified to Asher's transformation, his newfound dedication evident in his pursuit of swordsmanship perfection. Luke's mocking jest pierced the air, questioning Reka's judgment in choosing Asher as a mentor. Mocking Asher's skill and the perceived inferiority of imperial swordsmanship, Reka stood firm, unwavering in her defense, citing first-hand testimonies of Asher's prowess and challenging the doubters to witness his skill firsthand. Amidst the verbal sparring, Asher remained flustered, his kneeling posture betraying his confusion. Reborok's decisive action summoned Charon, a trusted authority on combat. By Reborok's order, Charon was assigned to assess Asher's swordsmanship in person, providing a decisive view in the ongoing dispute. With visible trepidation in her stuttering voice, the Queen expressed her concerns about Charon's suitability for the task, fearing the potential severity of the assessment. However, the Reborok, with unwavering determination, assured her that there was no reason to worry, and exuded confidence in the upcoming evaluation. Fixing Asher with a glare, Reborok leveled accusations of deception, insinuating that Asher's sudden foray into swordsmanship was a ploy to manipulate the Reka. He issued a stern warning, cautioning Asher not to take the matter lightly, lest he face dire consequences. When Reborok ordered Asher to arm himself, Asher complied, though apprehension pervaded the atmosphere. Reborok sets the terms of the challenge, stipulating that Asher must undergo grueling trials against Charon for at least 5 minutes to gain recognition. Charon, with his hostile demeanor, directed scathing remarks at Asher, condemning his courage to instruct the Reka and boldly defy authority in the presence of Queen Benetia. Charon had no intention of showing leniency, intending to teach Asher a harsh lesson and expel him from the territory. Launching an attack with vigor, Charon's aggressive assault left little room to rest. However, Asher, who displayed deft defensive maneuvers, intercepted Charon's initial attack, garnering the silent admiration of Reka, who was observing with earnest appraisal. Undeterred by Charon's taunts, Asher remained calm, ready to withstand the onslaught and prove his bravery in the face of adversity. With a declaration of intent to teach a lesson, Charon launched a powerful attack aimed at Asher, who once again deftly parried the attack. Charon's gaze sharpened, his disgust evident as he contemplated Asher's audacity to discuss swordsmanship without mastering the basics. Unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks, Charon observed Asher's struggle with satisfaction, reaffirming his belief that Asher was a presumptuous novice and unfit to engage in the art of swordsmanship. As Asher faltered, falling to his knees, Reborok commented on the formidable challenge of facing Charon, which elicited shock from Reka, who considered the situation unfair. In contrast, Luke complimented Charon, praising his prowess as a top graduate of the Imperial Academy and a paragon of elite swordsmanship. Luke asserts that Asher, a commoner, stands no chance against Charon's superior skills, echoing the sentiment of Charon's pedigree and superiority. Undeterred by the understatement, Asher grinned defiantly, relishing the challenge. Responding to Charon's gaze filled with contempt, Asher rose to his feet, mocking Charon's performance as an exhibition of ancient swordsmanship, belittling Charon's prowess in the art. Anchored by Asher's mockery, Charon demanded an explanation, but Asher remained calm, and only promised to repeat Charon's words to her. With the challenge given, Asher questioned whether Charon truly understood the gravity of his position as a knight commander and offered to enlighten him. With a powerful swing of his sword, Asher sent Charon crashing into a nearby pillar, leaving the audience stunned. As Charon struggled to comprehend the sudden turn of events, Asher approached him calmly, criticized her inability to survive the attack, and ordered her to get up and retrieve her sword. In a teasing tone, Asher referred to Charon as an honorable elite swordsman. He points out that the era of peace has made warriors weak and complacent. Internally, Asher is determined to restore military discipline to its former glory. Transitioning to a serious attitude, Asher recognized Charon's esteemed position within the Empire and the Templars, prompting him to act. With every word, Asher skillfully manipulates Charon's pride and sense of duty, forcing him to accept the challenge presented by a commoner. Full of rage, Charon seized her sword, hurling abuse at Asher and accusing him of being a despicable bastard. Lunging forward, Karan attempted to attack Asher, but Asher easily dodged the attack, playfully reprimanding Karan for his inaction. With a swift movement, Asher delivered a powerful punch to Karan's face, sending him crashing to the ground. The crowd watched in disbelief as the force of Asher's punch shattered the floor beneath Karan, leaving him flat on his back and defeated. Regretting his actions, Asher laments the current state of affairs, recalling the days when military commanders and soldiers were much tougher. He recounted the sacrifices made by countless skilled warriors in the face of demonic attacks. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, died helplessly against the devil without being able to do anything. Emphasized the importance of maintaining discipline even in times of peace without demons or war. Karan should have always kept a tight grip on this tension. She could not be this weak. As Asher delivered his fiery speech, the other knights closed in around him, triggering panic from Queen Benicia and worry from Lord Reborok. Reborok, facing Asher with a stern expression, demanded an explanation for his unusual behavior, expressing doubt that this was the same Asher they knew. Asher felt the weight of suspicion and distrust from those around him, grappling with the challenge of restoring their trust. He decides to reveal the truth, admitting that he has lost his memory. Reborok's incredulous response reflects the shock in the room. Asher recounts that he woke up that morning without remembering anything. He didn't know who he was, nor did he know who they were. He confessed that only a small portion of his swordsmanship skills remained, offering a glimmer of familiarity amidst the emptiness of his memories. Thinking holding the sword would help restore more memories. Removing his sword, Asher acknowledged the danger he had inflicted on Karan and expressed his readiness to face the consequences. His humble demeanor silenced the room, prompting an anxious interruption from Benicia as she called his name. Shortly after, Asher found himself back in his room, the weight of his revelation weighing heavily on his mind. Sitting on the edge of his bed, he pondered the instructions the Reborok had given him to remain confined until an undetermined time. Her gaze fell on the wooden sword propped against the wall, a silent reminder of the part of her she still kept amidst the uncertainty of her forgotten past. As Rika walked in the corridor with a simple meal in hand, she couldn't shake the feeling of bewilderment at Asher's sudden change. His demeanor had changed so drastically, as if he had become a completely different person overnight. She clearly remembered Asher's former self, in stark contrast to the confident swordsman he was today. His inability to wield a sword and his rude language back then had always been a source of irritation. In her reminiscences, Rika delves into Asher's origins, reflecting on his status as his mother's adopted son, taken in when he was abandoned outside the castle. Her mother's deep longing for children had driven her to raise Asher with care and affection, devoting herself to his upbringing without the help of servants. However, with the arrival of Luke and herself, Rika sensed a subtle shift in the dynamic. Asher, once considered family, began to drift away, his presence breeding resentment within the household. Despite her mother's strenuous efforts to maintain their bond, Asher's behavior had strained their relationship, bordering on favoritism due to the excessive affection he received. Although their mother's intervention had prevented Asher's expulsion from the castle, he was relegated to the role of an employee to remain. Luke's harsh condemnation of Asher as scum echoed loudly, reflecting the prevailing sentiment, while Rika silently harbored her conflicting feelings towards him. Rika couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that there was something different about Asher. His behavior and manner of speech that she was once so familiar with had undergone a major change, leaving her bewildered by the sudden change. He was like a swordmaster who practiced for years to reach this level. Arriving at Asher's room with a tray of food, she knocked on the door hesitantly to announce her presence before gently pushing the door. To her surprise, she found Asher standing there, brandishing a sword with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. Startled, she dropped the tray, the clatter of falling dishes echoing throughout the room as she stumbled backwards in shock. As shards of porcelain littered the floor, Rika's composure was shattered. Trembling with fear, she struggled to comprehend the scene before her. Asher's apologies were barely audible as he grappled with the unpleasant reality unfolding before his eyes. When he explained his intention to practice swordsmanship, Rika's confusion deepened. She watched in disbelief as Asher retreated to a corner of the room, his movements fluid and purposeful as he continued his relentless sword practice. Caught in a whirlpool of emotions, Rika couldn't help but feel a growing unease. The intensity with which Asher pursued his newfound passion bordered on obsession, leaving her restless and worried about what lay ahead. The moment Asher called her name, breaking the eerie silence, Reka was jolted back to reality. Her mind races with unanswered questions and mounting worries. Reka hesitated, wrestling with how to respond to Asher's questions about her past. She recounted how, despite the unconditional love of their mother, Asher's behavior often strained relationships within the castle. Acts of violence and vandalism had damaged his reputation, earning him the scorn of family and staff alike. As Reka painted a grim picture of Asher's former self, she couldn't help but feel remorse for the pain he had caused. Surprised by Reka's calm demeanor, Asher questions why she doesn't treat him with the disdain he believes he deserves. Her honest response caught him off guard. She had absolutely no ill will towards him, especially considering his memory loss. Reka saw this as an opportunity for a fresh start, free from the burden of her troubled past. Moreover, since her attitude was now better, she asked Asher to take care of her. Her unexpected kindness left Asher feeling confused, unsure of how to process her words. Before he could think about it further, a knock interrupted their conversation. Benicia, Asher's adoptive mother, entered the room, her presence a comforting reminder of the family ties that bound them. Benicia's gentle smile warmed Asher's heart as he pondered his identity. Hesitantly, he knelt before her, instinctively reverting to the reverence that had been ingrained all those years ago. However, Benicia's touch was gentle as she cupped his face, urging him to drop the formality. To her, he would always be the child she had raised, regardless of the memories that had been lost in the void. The call of mother he uttered took her by surprise, stirring up emotions within her. How could she remember their bond when her memory was blank? But Asher explained that his old self, the Asher he knew, felt like a stranger to him now. He questioned why Benicia had such affection for him, given his forgotten past. In response, Benicia wrapped him in a comforting embrace, a true testament to the love that transcends memories. She recounts the day she found him, a newborn baby abandoned outside the castle walls. Burdened with her own struggle to conceive an heir, she had found Asher, a beacon of hope in her darkest hour. Holding him close, she felt a great change in herself, a new purpose in nurturing this abandoned child. Despite the objections of others, Benicia had raised Asher with unwavering love and dedication. Even if he now felt like a stranger to her, it didn't change the fact that he was her son, and she had nurtured and cared for him. As Asher grapples with the possibility of starting over and forging a new identity, he can't help but wonder if he ever truly meant anything to her, feeling a deep ache for the Asher of old. Nevertheless, when Benicia sought reassurance from him, he offered quiet understanding. Meanwhile, in the king's chambers, Luke explodes in anger, demanding to know if Riberok had just mentioned demons and insinuated her relationship with Asher. Charon and Riberok are both incredulous, with Riberok dismissing it as an unfounded assumption, given the absence of demons for generations. Riberok reasoned that even if demons reappeared, their interests would most likely lie in manipulating rulers or nobles, rather than targeting commoners like Asher. Nonetheless, Riberok struggled to reconcile the image of a child defeating an experienced knight like Charon, or the fact that someone as honorable as Rika would recognize Asher's authority. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected guest, a man with a towering sword strapped to his back, calmly perched by the window. Surprised, the room went silent, unsure of how to react. With quick movements, Charon lunged forward, demanding an answer and launching an attack. However, the man's response was not at all what was expected. With a calm demeanor, he parried Charon's sword with ease, stopping the attack with just 2 fingers. A faint smile spread across the man's lips as he praised Charon's demeanor and skill, leaving everyone dumbfounded. To Riberok's surprise, the man recognized Charon as a worthy bodyguard, catching Riberok off guard with his unexpected familiarity. With little effort, the man easily tossed Charon aside, leaving him humbled and lying on the floor. Speaking to Riberok, the man asked if he had made the right choice in hiring Charon, prompting the Riberok to acknowledge the man's presence with respect, revealing a relationship that had spanned 2 decades. Charon, amidst his shock and confusion, found himself recalling memories triggered by the man's presence. While Riberok bows respectfully, recognizing the significance of the moment and the man's return after 20 years. Riberok warmly greets the newcomer as Swordsman Havenester, a renowned figure in the world of swordsmanship, and welcomes him to his residence.